Hey everyone, and welcome back to Underdog Investing. So today I want to talk about Palantir. Firstly, going through some of the rumors surrounding insider selling. So how many shares has Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, actually sold over the past few months? And how many shares does he still own? And then I'm going to go through some of the good news. So how Cathie Wood and ARK Invest are still very much bullish on this company, and talking a bit about the number of shares they've actually bought over the past few months. And then finally, talking a bit about the revenue that they've generated over the past year, so in 2020, and some of the new contracts they've signed in 2021. So before I jump into this, I'll be very grateful if you can smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for future updates. So starting with this article by Market Realist. So this covers how many shares Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, actually sold. So just for reference, so within days of Palantir's IPO, Karp sold 14.1 million shares, which is about 11% of his stake, for $135 million. So it's not an insignificant amount, but it is a minority of his stake. But since then, Karp has gone on to sell additional shares once per month since October 2020. So he's actually made 4 equal sales of 1.285 million shares, each in November, December, January and February, and each sale netted a higher return. And the reason for this is because although the number of shares sold were the same, the actual share price was going up as the months went by. And then more recently, so on March the 29th, he actually sold more shares, and at $21.73 per share, Alex Karp actually sold over 1.1 million shares for $24.5 million. And this made people a bit worried because he's still selling shares despite the actual stock price coming down from about 30 something to about $21 per share, and he's still selling a significant amount. So I think the real question is, how many shares does he still own? Because that will really tell us how committed he is still to the company. And that's very important, and it's a very important sign for investors like myself and yourself. So the latest sale leaves Karp with at least 7.56 million shares of Palantir valued at over $173.7 million as of its last close price. So as you can see, he still owns a significant amount of Palantir shares, 7.56 million shares valued over $173 million. So let's just confirm this information. So the way to do that is you go to the SEC website and you type in insider trading, and then you can see how many shares Alex Karp still owns. So if you look here, Alex Karp, and the most recent date was the 8th of April, and you can see that he still owns 7.7 million shares directly. So let's take this number and then put it into the calculator. So start with 7.7 million, and then we check the share price, so 24.04. So we multiply this number by 24.04. We end up with a number of $186 million. So that's how much his shares are worth. So it's quite accurate actually. So if we look at what they say, around 7 point something million shares and around $187 million of value. So and the real question now is, so he still owns $186 million worth of shares in Palantir, but how much is that relative to his net worth? So if we look at his net worth, it's $2.1 billion. So if he owns $186 million of that is tied up basically to Palantir, that basically means about between 8 to 10%, let's just say round it up to 10%, around 10% of his net worth is still tied to one company. So that's a significant amount. I mean, if we consider things like ARK Invest, where they have a rule where one company can't be more than 10% of the portfolio. So even Tesla for ARK Invest is only 10% of the portfolio. So for Alex Karp to have 10% of his net worth tied to Palantir is a very bullish sign, because it means that he's still very committed to the company, and that's a good sign for investors. It's very reassuring. So let's talk a bit about ARK Invest and Cathie Wood now. So ARK Invest and Cathie Wood continue to add shares of Palantir aggressively, and I am doing the same. So this is the title of an article by Seeking Alpha, which was very good. So let's have a look. So in my last article on Palantir, I mentioned that it had become the 34th largest holding of 55 companies in the ARK Innovation ETF. So ARK-K held 10.2 million shares at this point in time. So 1 month later, so over the past month, Cathie Wood and ARK Invest have increased their position in Palantir to 14.1 million shares. So Palantir has now climbed 9 spots and is now the 25th largest holding with a portfolio weight of 1.35% in ARK-K. So that's a significant jump over the past month. And the way ARK Invest like to work is during these difficult times, they like to increase their position in their highest conviction plays. So clearly Palantir is one of the high conviction stocks or companies for Cathie Wood and ARK Invest in their portfolio, because they've been buying significant amounts. They've almost increased their position by around 40 to 50% over the past month during this tech sell-off. So they're very bullish on this company. And just to confirm that, this is the ARK K holdings, which was released on the 8th of April. And you can see that in the 25th spot is Palantir with 14.1 million shares at a value of $324 million and a weighting of 1.35%. So that is accurate information. And so that's just very good news. Now let's talk a bit about the revenue generated. This just shows how the company is seriously making a lot of money and growing significantly. So looking at this graph on the right first, you can see that the government segment growth has increased by 77% year over year, from $346 million in 2019 in terms of revenue generated to $610 million of revenue generated in the government segment in 2020. And if you have a look at the total revenue, you can see that the total revenue was $743 million in 2019, and then that increased to over $1 billion, so $1.093 billion in 2020. So significant growth there. And then just some pieces of information. So they signed a 3-year $44 million expansion with the FDA, signed a 2-year $31 million agreement with NHS, and also a $114 million US Army exercises first option year. So a lot has been going on with Palantir. In Q4 of 2020, our government segment generated $190 million in revenue, which is up 85% year over year. And in a world where big data is going to be, things are going to transition into big data and artificial intelligence, as Cathie Wood and ARK Invest pointed out during their Big Ideas 2021 article, you can see that Palantir are really going to take over in terms of winning contracts and signing deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're really going to crazily increase their revenue, I think anyway. But let's just have a look at over the past few months and what kind of revenues they've been, what kind of contracts they've been able to sign and what kind of deals they've been doing. So in terms of January 2021, so outside of the US military complex, the US government has awarded several contracts to Palantir since the new administration has been steering the ship. So in January 2021, Palantir inked a deal with the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency with an action obligation of $1.96 million, bringing the total obligation to $25.53 million. And the US Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency has additional options on the contract, which could increase the value to $38.33 million. So you can see that I know Palantir don't have a large number of clients. I think it's somewhere in the region of 130 to 150 clients. But what's really important is the size of these deals and the amount of revenue that each client generates. And I really think, like I said, in the world where big data is really going to be very important if you want to succeed in the world, whether that's in the government or in businesses, people are really going to be doing plenty of deals with Palantir, and I think that's really going to take Palantir to the next level in terms of revenue. And I think people are sleeping on this stock, I think. In February, Palantir inked a deal with Animal and Plant Health Inspection Service with an action obligation of $2.03 million in the initial term, with 2 additional extension years for a total contractual value of $6.57 million. Similarly, in March, the Food and Drug Administration inked a deal with Palantir worth $625,000 in additional obligations, bringing this contract to value to $1.25 million. And then finally, in March of 2021, Palantir inked a deal with the Department of Energy with a contractual obligation of $7 million. And in terms of the total value, so this single contract has a total value to Palantir of $89.9 million over 5 years. So like I said, the deals that Palantir signs are huge, millions and millions of dollars. This is how the business to business model works. And the way I see it is data is the future, and Palantir are only going to get better and stronger. And I really think this is a great opportunity to buy the stock personally, and I think I'm definitely going to get a position. So last week I was considering it, but this week I'm really much more bullish on it, and I think I'm going to buy a position in Palantir despite the 10% run up over the past few days. I still think it's a very good price if we're talking very long term. So that's what I'm planning to do. So that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, I'll be grateful if you can smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for future updates. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below, and if you found it useful, please do share this with your friends. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.